Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we'll be starting a new series where we'll be looking at all the minor races in the Warhammer fantasy world and seeing if there is a possible way for them to be implemented into the Total War Warhammer series. Today we'll be starting off strong with the nation of Araby, so without further ado, let's begin. The nation of Araby and its possible inclusion into the Total War Warhammer series is a topic that pops up in the forums, Reddit and so on every so often. And while Creative Assembly have currently shot down any possible inclusion of Araby at this moment, saying that there are currently no plans to include Araby, unless they specifically say that this is never going to happen in some way, shape or form, then people are going to continue to request it and speculate about it. Just for the sake of people who aren't aware what Araby is, we'll explain via a small excerpt. Araby is made up of several ethnic groupings and a number of states, although all are loyal to a single religious and secular center of power, controlled by the Sultan. The cities of Araby are built along its prosperous and fertile coastlands. The lands of interior Araby are arid and infertile, and peopled by nomadic camel-borne raiders who prey upon the caravans plying their dusty trade. Humans are the dominant race of Araby, although there are a number of other declining races who survive in the remote areas. The sultans of Araby are said to be more wealthy than the dwarfs, and its cities are rich in spices, gold and slaves, which are normally traded with the Empire and Norsca. The Arabian warriors are feared greatly by the desert travelers, but there are also other dangers, such as the strange mages and desert demons. Araby was never too well explored in Warhammer Fantasy lore. As Warhammer Fantasy got older and older, references to Araby became less frequent. This is because when Araby first became a concept, this was during a time where, well, Games Workshop weren't very original. You see, Araby is based on medieval European ideas about the Islamic world and Middle East mythology and fiction. In earlier editions, natives of Araby were actually called Arabs. It was also stated in early Warhammer Fantasy lore that the Arabians worshipped a deity known as Allah, which is the name of God in Islam. Now obviously, with both things being stated, you can tell why Games Workshop shied away from Araby as a whole, and why Creative Assembly themselves might be hesitant on adding in a playable Araby faction in the Total War Warhammer series. Most of Araby's early lore was not directly inspired, but rather ripped directly from history. This is the same circumstance for Cathay, Ind, Nippon and so on. But as time progressed, the lore around Araby did change ever so slightly at the very least. And Araby was mentioned a decent amount of times in Warhammer Fantasy lore, even as recent as some 8th edition army books. But considering its early lore, which a decent amount of it carried on into later editions, does that mean that Araby stands no chance being eventually included into the Total War Warhammer series? Honestly, I believe there's still a chance for Araby, and there's a few reasons why. Firstly, there is an obvious demand. Loads of fans make posts about them in the forums, Reddit and so on. You even see very talented artists creating fan-made concept art, which are the images you've been seeing in this video. Now obviously, demand itself does not mean possible inclusion, but Creative Assembly and Games Workshop are most likely aware of the demand that follows this race. The main issue here would be the lore, but lore can simply be rewritten. Remember, the Warhammer Fantasy universe is a Games Workshop IP, and they are rather infamous for rewrites. In this case, this would probably be the best course of action. Now obviously, the Warhammer Fantasy series is no longer currently active. However, we are aware that Games Workshop are currently working on a new IP. This is called Warhammer the Old World, and it is set a few hundred years prior to where we are in the current timeline, not only for 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but also in the timeline for Total War Warhammer, despite the fact that they're both quite different. We are aware that Kislev itself is being reworked by Games Workshop at this moment for Warhammer the Old World, and it's more than likely any new units that will appear in that tabletop game will also be translated into Total War Warhammer. But if Kislev is being looked at once again, why not Araby also? In truth, there is a chance that Araby will possibly be looked over. You see, while it has not been confirmed, it has been hinted that Warhammer the Old World will be set around the age of 3 emperors. A lot happened during this point in the timeline, but this also included Araby. You see, there was a period right about at the beginning of the Age of 3 Emperors where Araby had been united and launched an invasion into the Old World itself. They had taken a large majority of Estalia and Telia, but eventually were beaten back all the way back to their native country by a combined effort of Estalia, Telia, Bretonnia and the Empire. This event was known as the Crusades against Araby. Araby in lore was almost shattered to the brink of annihilation during this time. Such a big event eventually saw the founding of many knightly orders. So unless Games Workshop want to rewrite such a historic part in Warhammer Fantasy history, it could be speculated that Araby might even see tabletop minis in Warhammer the Old World. Let's be honest, a Bretonnia vs Araby box set might be rather interesting, and quite thematic at that too. So it is rather obvious that lore would have to be rewritten, but there is some stuff that could stay the same. Its armies as interpreted in lore could more or less not be changed. Araby is known for its fast-moving desert riders, strongly disciplined warriors, war elephants and so on. That type of stuff doesn't really need to change. The basic aesthetic could also stay the same. Fine silk clothing, steel armor, gleaming helmets and so on. Nothing of that can really be considered offensive. The army itself would be very visually distinct. The lore surrounding its society itself could also be the same. The people of Araby are known to be experienced traders, extremely competent warriors, and master horse breeders. The only thing that would really need to change here is obviously removing some very obvious stereotypes and the rework of its pantheon. Obviously they can't go with Allah because even I know that's a bit much. Now, seeing as we are at the end of Warhammer 2's lifespan, and the third and final game of the series is most likely going to be focused around the Far East, how could Araby be realistically added into the Total War Warhammer series should there be a chance? Well, here's where the problem presents itself. Obviously, Araby would not be included in the Far East, and the only way we would see such a race in the third and final game of the series is in the big mega campaign, which most people have called the Immortal Empires. Honestly, I thought about this quite heavily, and I believe there are 2 possible ways they could implement Araby. Firstly would be a generic race pack, which would feature only one Araby lord in the main campaign, whatever that may be, in the Far East. Maybe some storyline where this character has gone to the Far East in search of trade, some magical horses or something around that line. Then in the big Immortal Empires campaign, there you'd start to see different legendary lords. The second possible option would be that Creative Assembly would go back and release a DLC exclusive to Warhammer 2, and then you'd be able to use Araby in Game 3's big mega campaign. Honestly, I don't really see this happening, but there is a possibility. Now, one of my subscribers have mentioned a possible third way, but I don't see this happening. This would be a DLC exclusive only to the big mega campaign. But seeing as most likely to get access to this campaign you would have had to purchase Warhammer 1, 2 and 3, it just seems like it would be a bit much. That would basically be forcing someone to purchase all 3 games and then purchase Araby as a result. The possible community backlash for something like that would be absolutely terrifying. I doubt Creative Assembly would be willing to take that risk. Obviously there is the chance that Araby could be an FLC race, but I don't see that happening. If we take artistic interpretation of Araby and historical references to the Islamic world and Middle Eastern culture back in the day, Araby itself would be very visually unique, and it wouldn't make sense to make something like that a FLC race. Yes, Bretonnia was an FLC race and they are quite visually unique themselves, but I believe that Bretonnia was made an FLC race because the main majority of its units, that of all the different variants of knights, are mostly reskins of each other, so it makes sense for Bretonnia but not for Araby. But what do you guys think in regards to Araby? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm honestly still holding out hope, as very little of a chance it may be, unless it's specifically stated that it's not ever going to happen. There's still always a chance, and I'd like to believe there is. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various different social media links such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord, where you can get in contact with the Great Book team. Also in the description section below is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Using our special link and also the special code, which is also in the description below, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A special thank you to Ryan Bertsche and Gibraltar LUSC for subscribing to us at our Fame level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule and VSVasan for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you guys enough. The money earned from Patreon is going directly back into the channel, slowly upgrading little bits and bobs, just trying to get to a higher level of content for you guys. And a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. The support has been insane lately, and honestly, we can't be more than excited. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.